So yeah, anyway, so we want to build characters that we can relate to, but they have to be human and not too perfect. And you want to give your character somewhere to go over the course of your story or your novel, right? So whether or not you're writing a story where your character transforms significantly or it's a small, subtle change, there needs to be somewhere for them to go. So you don't want to write a hero at the beginning, because then who do they become at the end? Um, Similarly, you also don't want someone who's so broken or has so far to go that the reader is like not willing to invest their, energy in this character. Or too naive. I see this a lot in manuscripts that I edit. I'll get these characters. It's like they literally were just born yesterday, the cliche. They just seem like they don't understand how the world works. And I think that just comes from character development takes time and practice. Keep in mind too that your protagonist, while you want them to be consistent and you want them to feel authentic, they can change their minds and learn from mistakes and grow from things that they have done and become better over the course of a story. And there are stories that are redemption stories that start with a character coming from a state of being or something they've done that's kind of, shady or questionable, and they redeem themselves by doing some kinds of acts or whatever it is, adopting some orphans or whatever, they redeem themselves. And that is a storyline that does happen. So I want everyone to write down 2 character flaws that your character, think of a protagonist in something you're working on. And I want you to think of flaws that could ideally be transformed into strengths if possible. And so when I say flaw, I mean stubbornness and again, flaw may be the wrong word. It could be character setback or something. Like they can be shy, they can be not good at asking for help. They could be a little arrogant. Well, actually, arrogance is not a great flaw. They can be like falsely confident as a way of hiding insecurity, things like that. So think about your characters. And another way to think of flaws is what are character traits they have that sort of trip them up along the way because they haven't overcome this yet or they haven't learned how to work with it. Could be even someone who's like always feels like they have to do everything themselves. That can be a character flaw. Or don't think too hard about it, but try to see what comes to you. All right. So let's see. Some of you still writing? All right, let's go around and share them. I'll just start at the top of my screen. Mark.
Okay, this is out of my new novel.
Mm-hmm.
And the character's Tommy Blue. And he's easily led astray.
Mm.
And he loves animals too much.
Like little bleeding heart style, like more than people?
No, like if you abuse an animal, he will kill you.
Oh, okay. He's triggered. Is this the priest? Was it a priest? Weren't you writing about a priest?
I was going to do a Irish history book called Hammered Whispers with
Yeah.
Monk. But no, this is totally new. This is
Oh,
a horror, supernatural horror. I've never done that or even read any supernatural horror, but
all right. Well, hey, you'll
the
learn
voices
by
tell me
doing.
to do it.
Great. Great. Good work. And both of those are things that could potentially be transformed or overcome if that is your desire, but you may not choose that.
I'm working on a character who is both a protagonist and antagonist at
Oh,
the
yes.
same time.
Yes, that is a thing. All right, cool. I'll be curious to hear more. All right, Miss Martha.
Yeah, my main character is she's a little bit standoffish and she's a little bit impatient.
Mm-hmm. Good. I like that. Susan.
Mine is very stubborn, and she also tends to disregard rules.
Which is great for a fiction, though. And for a PI, right? She's a PI. Yeah, perfect. Sochi.
Mine is too cavalier with other people's emotions, especially those that love her. And vice versa. She's not good at letting them know her emotions, and she really keeps them close to her.
Nice. Good job. Yannicka.
Well, World War II Jakob is really doubtful of love. He believes he has to hide himself or earn love. And then adult Jakob, much older Jakob, really wants to suppress, even though he's been more open about the past. He wants to suppress the past. There's things he still doesn't want to look at.
Good. Denial.
Mm-hmm.
Jordan.
My main character is very superstitious and very kind of like rooted in the old ways of her culture, which makes her very, I guess, like reluctant to trust and reluctant to kind of accept new things.
Yeah, cool. That's good. That's always good because then you're going to put them in situations where they have to deal with new things. Carrie.
Currently unmuted.
Mine is just basically has like big ideas in your head, in her head, but then in trying to take action on them, then she's lacking confidence in
Got it.
herself.
Good. I like that. It's like the idea is big in her head, but the execution part she struggles with.
Yeah.
Nice. Rachel.
My character is completely naive about the world outside the city walls and makes assumptions about villagers based on her own prejudice built upon that naivete.
Nice.
And then she's also headstrong and doesn't think before she acts.
Oh, good. These are good. You guys are good at this. Nancy.
Oh. My character, I think she's naive. She's got an innocent, inexperienced in life, sheltered, and I think she's defensive and stubborn.
Good. All right. Got a starting point now. So additional goals of character development are.
I got a question on that last slide.
Yeah.
Can you back it up?
I can.
It says protagonist should not be too enlightened. I can understand that, nor overly dense. My protagonist is very dense.
Well, then he just has to be really likable.
I'm gonna send you chapter 1 to see how I do, because I'm also using indirect quote writing. I'll send you the first chapter. Yeah. You can tell me if it's crap or not.
All right, I'll just write crap on it. No. I think that you can have a character that is naive or that is dense in one way. That just has to be, you don't want to stretch the readers, you don't want to frustrate the reader with a character who's so stupid or so dense or so something that they feel, the reader feels like, why should I invest in this character? It's one thing if we kind of have a sense of maybe this character was sheltered or never had much life experience, then we're able to accept their sort of being. So I'll let you know. And so along those lines, what we're trying to create is a sympathetic character. And that, again, doesn't necessarily mean we like everything they do or even like them. It's more that we understand their motivations and goals and that they aren't behaving in a reprehensible way. They're not murdering people or other things like that. They have to behave in certain ways that we find relatable and that we can support. So like I bring up this anti-hero in this book, which turned into a Netflix series, but I read it as a book, and the character is he becomes obsessed with a particular woman at a time, and he kind of stalks her, but the story is narrated in such a way that you're kind of rooting for him, which is horrible, but I can't explain it except that she does such a good job. And then he behaves in ways that are not, he doesn't do harmful things to her until like a certain point in the story when he kind of loses it, but you are the whole time you sort of think, well, he's just a pretty good guy, which frankly is probably what the mindset of people in those actual scenarios are, right? Well, he's just a good guy, he means well. The point is that we kind of understand him and what he's doing, and so therefore we think he's okay up to a certain point. But when readers understand a character's motivation, if they understand a little bit about how they came to be the way they are, no heavy backstory, but just some subtle cues, and we see them as human and flawed with room to grow, then we're still going to invest in that character. We'll willingly follow them on their journey, and we will root for them. So it can be tough, right, to create characters who are flawed, but we're still willing to invest in them, and that just takes time and practice. This will cross over a little bit with our lesson on plot, but I want to remind us that plot is also about character development. So in order to make a character interesting enough to sustain a plot, now some characters are just interesting enough, but in order to, get 300 or more pages into a book, you need to give your character a problem, which we talked about before is the inciting incident. But sometimes it's good to think of it through a character lens, like what is the problem? How does it complicate your character's life? And how is it related? Your character would respond differently to this problem than another character, right? So who they are shapes how this sort of plot event unfolds. So I don't know, you may recall we talked about this as either a call to change or a call to adventure, this inciting incident, this moment. So this problem has to force change into your protagonist's outer life first, usually. So there's an event or something that happens, and then it creates change in their inner life, right? So there's some examples here. They have to leave town, quit a job, meet a stranger, accept a bargain, do something. And then it creates change in their inner life. Like these are not a good examples actually, but they perceive something differently. They feel scared, they feel excited, they know that they're on the path to their dream, whatever it is. So let's think about what is your character's problem at the beginning of the story that really sets the story in motion. Give it a couple minutes. What's that? Oh, somebody just in the background. What is your character's problem?
You mean inciting incident?
Yeah, but I just kind of want you to put that language out of mind and think, what is the problem at the beginning of your story that is going to cause, immediate conflict for your character, and how, think about where it happens as close to the beginning as is possible. But yes, I am talking about inciting incident. I just want to sort of recast it through the lens of character. Like if you think about it as your character, she's leaving home, right? Is her problem that she's never been alone on her own for before. So maybe that's her problem. She's going to be alone for the first time in her life, or she's finally has to be her own adult. Does that make sense? Just take one more minute. Crying to get in. All right, so wrap up your final sentence there. All right, start at the bottom of my screen this time. Except Sochi, you look like you're still writing. Susan, you're muted though. There you go.
Well, at the very start, she's looking for the case. She just finished one, and if she spends too much time not doing something, she starts thinking about her dead son.
So the case is her way of distracting herself. Yeah, good. Nancy, you're already you just muted yourself. You were unmuted.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks. So, my character is he has to make for the first time in her life has to make decisions for herself what she wants to do, but then finds herself making decisions that feel right to her and in conflict with everything that she's been raised to do.
Like it.
So that creates a big problem.
Good. I like that. Yes. It's that self versus society thing. Rachel.
I have Talia is ready to start her new job at a village credit distribution center, but she is attacked by rebel forces and has to escape into the village and somehow find her way back to the city.
That's a good one. Big one. Excellent. Mark.
All right, back to Tommy. He is a full-grown man, a big old boy, as they say down here in Alabama. And he has the mind of a 4 or 5-year-old. He was brain damaged at birth.
Oh.
But he survives. He survives uniquely. He's got angels that talk to him. He's got angels that actually manifest physical things for him. He's got angels that do things that he doesn't particularly like sometimes. One in particular, Hard Angel, he doesn't always trust.
So what is the inciting it that problem for him then? The fact that they create problems.
Well, most of the time they help him out. They show him, they make things different colors to tell him whether something's safe, something's not safe, or to lead him from point X to point Y. But Hard Angel, there's Hard Angel, Soft Angel, Fat Angel, Sad Angel. There's a bunch. Those are in his head, and of course they're not real angels.
Okay.
But they're not imaginative either.
Okay.
They
supernatural stuff going on.
Yeah, it's supernatural horror. But Hard Angel is going to take him down routes he doesn't want to go, and Soft Angel will try to dissuade him.
All right.
And that's all I have for a plot so far. I never start with a plot.
Yeah. No, you've got good potential there, though. All right. Awesome. Yannicka.
So if you guys were just hearing me when I was unmuted, fussing with all kinds of things, I apologize. I thought I might have been unmuted for that. So for the character stuff, for Jakob in present day, elderly Jakob, he wants to rest on his laurels of this openness he's done with his family. He just wants his kids to be okay and rest in general because he's also physically ill. And then his son decides that he's going to do this ultraflight plane flying, which he's going to do no matter what. And that makes it unavoidable that things can't be denied and suppressed. And then Albie, his son in the beginning, wants to be a trustworthy force in his family and make amends. He wants to make a difference in the world. Then he's caught up in wanting to fly ultraflight like he did as a teenager in a situation that caused a bad disaster for him and his father. And he's just actually compelled as this must happen. And his daughter's caught up in it, and it's just going to happen.
Good. I like it. Sochi.
I was thinking about this. So I start the book and this is a moment where she's really in the thick of it. There's kind of no undoing her decision to put her face and her name in harm's way. And she's been, practicing and preparing to be this spy in the inner circle of the Nazi. And so this is kind of the moment where there's no turning back. And what's most hard for her is that it's not just taking, it's not just something that's could her ability could hurt her family. If she goes down, her whole family goes down with her.
Right.
So there's a lot at stake, but and there's no turning back from this.
That's great. I like it. Beautiful. Martha.
So mine is experiencing the abnormal biological phenomenon of growing a tail while navigating first love, as well as, among other things, a pending meeting with a sexual predator who is powerful and has his riches tied in with her family's,
Nice.
Well, riches.
There.
Navigate.
Excellent. Carrie.
Currently unmuted.
My character's not liked what she's been seeing for a long time, feeling helpless, and then looking at like activists and people who take big chances to make a statement, but she's, like I said, she's got big ideas, but then she doesn't have the nerve. So at a certain point, she takes a few steps, and once you takes those steps, there's kind of no turning back.
Good. All right, Jordan.
At the beginning of my story, the character, she gets to go on a very important trip that she's been wanting to take for a very long time. But along with the permission to go on this trip, one of kind of the caveats is that she has to take one of the Emperor's demons with her to, like, as protection. And the demons are like what the moms tell their kids stories about to keep them in bed at night. So she's been hearing stories about this sort of thing her whole life, and now she's got to like sit in a carriage with this creature, and it's kind of killing her vibe for this trip.
Killing her vibe. I'll say that's great. I like it. Good tension. All right, did I skip anyone? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay. All right, good. Excellent job, everyone. Moving on. So now we want to think a little bit about some of the, what I call the haunts of your character, right? So there's secrets and pain. And of course, not every character's haunts will look the same. Some people may have very minor ones. Some people might have big ones. Some people never think about it, suppress it, like Yannika's character. Some people, it comes out the cracks, right? Some characters are very conscious of their pain and control it, manage it, or deal with it in a healthy or unhealthy way. So these can be anything, right? From family legacies of trauma, or they can be positive family legacies, but losses, murder they committed. I'm thinking accidental homicide, hit someone with their car and drove off. Wartime crimes where they were kind of forced to do something against their will, moral injury, child they had to give up, secret identity. I mean, you name it, because it doesn't have to be that dramatic. It can be very subtle, but something that is lingering inside your character's heart and that they carry with them into this story. And it should be revealed along the way, sometimes in dialogue, sometimes in thoughts, but hopefully not too much in just exposition. So take a minute to think of one or two things that you feel kind of haunt your character. You can think of this as pain or secrets. take another minute and then wrap it up. Okay. And put that final sentence down. All right, so starting over here, Nancy, you want to tell us a little bit about your characters, what haunts her?
Okay. I think what haunts her is that the influence of her background, her father, particularly the Catholic Church that she was raised in, and society's general attitude towards women and marriage and the role, creates so much conflict in her that she doesn't know who she really is deep inside. And it's like, who is she versus what she has been indoctrinated to believe she should be.
She's got to find herself. Yeah.
She's got to find herself.
Carrie.
Currently unmuted.
Mine is deep shame, like a marginalization and wanting to take her power back, but there being a deep trauma that she didn't really realize she had.
Shame and trauma. Yep, those will do it. Good. It's funny to say good to that, but you know what I mean. From a fictional standpoint, this is good. Martha.
Yeah, my character, she's an American living in Tuscany, and so she was homeschooled, never got the language completely, so she feels a little bit culturally isolated. And academically, she struggles too, so there's that little bit of insecurity with, feeling like I'm dumb type of thing.
Yep.
And that further which is that urge towards nature, that the connection.
Yeah, I like that. That's great. Jordan.
One of my characters is a soldier, and he kind of has a false sense of duty, almost a misplaced loyalty that's always in the back of his mind because he was raised his whole life and trained his whole life to serve this one man, only to find out later in life that this man is a horrible person. So he's constantly resisting the urge to give this man his loyalty because it's what he's been molded into. So it's kind of like that conflicting with his conscience.
Yeah, good. I like it. Mark?
Okay, back to Tommy again. He's haunted by these demons, which he thinks are angels, because his Aunt Vera, who abused him and raised him, told him that everybody has angels. So he's haunted by her, and she often threatened to put him away until the day he corrected her. Correcting things is something Tommy does in an OCD sort of way. The demons show him what needs to be corrected by changing their color.
Oh dear. I'm guessing correction meant she didn't live long.
That's true.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yannicka.
So elderly Jakob is haunted by the conflict with intellectually realizing that he's never caused others deaths when he was young or when he was older. But what he now views as his recklessness in taking his son Albie up to go ultraflighting with him as a young teenager, he keeps returning to the thought that he does cause pain and death and hurt.
Wow.
And then Albie, also at the beginning of this same story, he believes he causes family lots of heartache and should cut that out because of that active addiction he had. However, he never really looked at the reckless aspect of going ultralight flying with his father. And things are coming to him like he didn't really think it was safe to go up that windy day. And also his daughter is now about the same age Albie was when he experienced this. So there's just a lot that's haunting him and coming to him.
Good. Sochi.
So this was an easy one for me, and I just discovered it in this last pages I sent you. I didn't really have a plan. I knew when I first started that there was something that set her to go on this dangerous path of being a spy, and I didn't know what it was. And I was really happy when it came to me. I was like, okay, I saw it, and it just really was natural for me. It was what haunts her is, you know, she was on her horse Oliver, and she hears this bomb, and she smells the dead bodies, and she sees these two Nazis laughing, and with her powerful horse she runs them over, tramples them, and kills them. One of them, and you know, with his last bit of energy before he dies, shoots Oliver, and Oliver dies. So that's going to be, that's so there. And then, so her family has to come in, and her dad and her brother and Jean-Luc come and bury these Nazi to, you know, hide the evidence. And so she's kind of brought the whole family into this. And so this whole thing is a huge thing that's like haunting her. She's lost her beloved horse, and she's brought her family into something really dangerous. And so she's kind of just very wounded from this, and very now reckless with her own life because of this thing that happened to her.
Nice. Good. Susan.
There are two things. She's haunted by anger toward the authorities. Her parents were killed by a thief in their store when she was a kid, and nobody was ever arrested. So that's part of why she became a PI. But she also feels like she failed her son.
Yeah. Good one. Rachel.
I have Talia's mother, the main character's mother, died in childbirth, and her family hates her for it, especially her father. And there's an undertone that she doesn't belong in the family, which is revealed at the end of the book, that she is a product of an affair in a world where monogamy is not just a religious practice, but also a biological imperative.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. I'm in.
Yeah.
Good. Did I miss anyone? Okay, good. All right. So since we're talking about haunts, I wanted to also use this as an aside to talk just briefly about backstory, and a reminder what it is and when it's most productive to use it. So of course, backstory is all of your character's history, and that can mean all the way back to childhood, or it can mean anything that happened prior to the opening of your book. It could be the day before your story opens. So it's all that sort of explanatory information that also tries to set up the story. So we often explain about a place, about a person, about an event. And we try to tell the reader rather than letting the story unfold. And so I put this quote in here from Jamie Ford, who says, writing backstory feels like storytelling, but it isn't. It's regurgitating facts or dolling up aspects of world building, basically plugging in what the author already knows, hoping it will entertain and enlighten the reader. Instead, it has the opposite effect. Less is more. Backstory is like creating a connect the dots picture. You just need the dots. The reader will draw the lines. And I notice time and time again in these workshops that the comments people give each other is like, I got tired, I got bored here, this pulled me out of the story, and it's always backstory. So the trick of the writer is to figure out when and where to put back the information that you've sort of tried to pack into the backstory. Backstory, as I say here, by definition, takes the story backward. So it takes us out of the front flow of what we're already engaged in. So you have to really be asking yourself, is this a place where the story can bear backward momentum? Whether that comes in the form of flashbacks or characters remembering something or whatever it is. Now, there are times and places for slowing down the action and going backward and using a flashback scene. And these are, I don't remember writing this, but I wrote flashback scenes, which are like backstory on steroids. really the only way you want to reveal backstory is in dialogue, very, very, very short memory snippets and flashback scenes. So it should really always take the form of a scene, or it can be revealed in like, information that comes out of someone's mouth. But anytime you have a chunk of it in exposition, you're just gonna bore the reader. So flashback scenes can be relevant to bring to life a character who is either deceased or absent in some way from the front story, but who is very relevant and we need to know something about them. When the past is directly responsible for a present plot point, or more to the point, when a present plot point triggers a need to explain something about the past, right? Sometimes when it helps to clarify, deepen, or further our understanding of a character's behavior. I used an example here, this book called The Woman in the Window, which is kind of a psychological thriller. The character's agoraphobic, and you don't know why, but over the course of the book, through flashback scenes, it's revealed to you why she is agoraphobic. And you do need to know why, you just don't need to know it all up front at once. Another way to use flashback scenes is if a character it doesn't have to be traumatized, but there's something happening in the front story that's complicated, or they can't easily talk about it, or you're trying to kind of keep the readers from knowing it all at once, you can use flashback scenes to reveal it. A great example of this comes from one of my favorite books in the world, which is called The Sparrow by Mary Doria Russell. So a Jesuit priest returns from a mission to another planet. It's obviously set in the future. And appears to have been disgraced, and he's got all that's happened to him looks like one kind of situation. And then in the flashbacks, you learn the real story behind it. And that sort of redeems him and also is a very compelling story. So there's a lot of places where you can drop into flashback. You just want to remember you're cranking that wheel backwards. Can you sustain the reader's interest? And is it relevant? Do we really need to know this information at this point right here? So I find that the short, sweet flashback is the best. Try to keep it all to a minimum, or you get bored readers.
Are you talking 2-3 sentences?
Yeah, a paragraph at most, unless you're really going to drop into a whole flashback scene, and some people do, or like some people will alternate. So the one chapter's the front story, and then the next chapter's the backstory, but it's told in scenes, So some stories move like that. But I would say if you're just going to drop into a flashback, keep it short, a paragraph at most. And yeah, if you can work it into or like sometimes a character will have a memory flash, and that can be a couple sentences, she was back on the beach with her father getting swept out to the ocean or something. And like 3 sentences, you can actually reveal a lot of backstory in a flashback format. Yeah, Rachel.
My historical fiction story is kind of odd, and I'm wondering if this is not really related. The whole story is told through flashback, through the memories of a 94-year-old woman who's walking through a museum complex, and every time she gets to a new place, it triggers a new memory. So the main story that would be in this time is almost like those are the flashbacks.
Right. Well, in your case, it sounds like your structure is almost opposite, where the front story is just the device to get you to allow us back into the backstory, so to speak. As long as,
right. So I'm assuming I would just kind of flip what you're saying here, make that rather small, and then
exactly.
Okay, got it.
I mean, and also just make sure both sections are written in scene and not in exposition. So we've got action and dialogue. Right. And we can see the characters moving through space and time. And also ask yourself if the front story builds to some kind of a goal. Like, does anything happen? Is there an arc of some kind?
Right, its own arc. Yeah.
So when
it's just not as powerful of an arc. It's kind of a little. It's a little hill. It's not a mountain.
It can be a small.
Yeah.
A small. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
A glen or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. All right. So. And did anyone else have questions about backstory or anything? Okay. So now we've talked a little bit about what haunts your character, what their flaws are. Let's think about what excites or motivates them other than regular human impulses. Specific to them, we need to know what makes them happy, what motivates them, why they are willing to do certain things, if they're going to be putting themselves in danger, if they're going to be undertaking, big risks, why are they willing to do that? And then also there are times in the story, though, for the most part, you want to kind of keep your character in a state of conflict and complexity. There are times when you can give them what they want. You can make them happy, but it has to be brief, and you don't want to linger there because unfortunately, as I often say in other workshops, happy, nice people makes for boring fiction. So you can't keep them there very long, unfortunately, right? Sometimes what haunts your protagonist and what excites them or motivates them are bound together. Someone could become, I wrote, someone could become sadomasochistic. But traumas can shape characters' behaviors and motivations. So part of your journey, your character's journey might be actually discovering what they really like or want versus what they've been led to believe or shaped to want and like by their experiences. So they can change what they desire, what they want, and what motivates them over time. And let's think about desire on many levels. So not just romantic desire, but desire for a level of success, for certain goals in life, for the approval and love of other characters, right? Characters yearn for validation, for approval. And remember that characters' desires and what motivates and drives them can change over the course of their story as they get stronger and become different people. So take a minute now. Sorry, we're doing extra writing today. And think about what are your characters' desires and motivations. So like what drives them and what do they yearn for? What do they want? And that can be on any level that you want to write about. Like what are they after in life? What are they after in this story? All right, just one more minute. start to finish up your thought, wrap it up. All right. Martha, why don't you start?
Sure. Subconsciously, she wants a feeling of kinship with the people around her. Consciously, she wants all the selfish things that a teenager wants. She wants to feel comfortable in her body. She wants to control her temper. And to some extent, she wants to control her budding love and control her partner a little bit as she is becoming a territorial Huldra.
I love it. Susan.
What really makes her happy is feeling like she's brought the truth that's been hidden to light, or that she's achieved justice. On another level, she used to really love poker games that she had with the sheriff and the medical examiner, but the sheriff and she are having problems.
Right. Got it. Good. Rachel.
Talia's motivation is she wants to belong in her family. She wants to bond, but she doesn't know that yet. And she wants to keep Bashi safe and feel important. And she wants to replace her brother in her father's eyes.
Nice. Mark.
Tommy seeks serenity. His motivation is that, or let's put it this way, he's driven to that because the angels have told him once he fixes everything, things will be serene, things will be correct, things will be right. And he's bought into that. And Tommy also doesn't like being like it when people are afraid of him. He's a big guy. He's got a leg that's half an inch to an inch shorter than the other one, so he walks kind of funny. And he wears a big slouch hat and he keeps his head down. Because when people see them, they're automatically understand something's weird because he has no eyebrows and he has no eyelashes. As a matter of fact, he hasn't got a hair on his body.
Yeah. Good. I like it. Nancy.
Okay. Gabby was raised in a time where all women become wives and mothers, and her role model is her mother's life and relationship. And because of that, she has this lifelong motto that she said, marriage is death. And she wants to, she bases everything she knows on what she's seen and heard about marriage. But she does want a relationship. And she wants to be with somebody, but she wants to be with somebody where she's equal and respected for who she is as much as her husband. That's what drives her.
Nice. Jordan.
So my main character is a painter, which means that she's kind of always had this very deep love of and desire for things that are beautiful. But she's also kind of learning as she goes that her understanding of beauty doesn't match everyone's understanding of beauty. So as she's on this physical quest, she's also kind of on this, I don't know if it would be an intellectual or like an emotional quest to open herself up to other people's understandings of beauty.
Nice. I like that. Beautiful. Carrie.
Currently unmuted.
My character's motivation is wanting to take a stand, but to something with the deep trauma of marginalization all her life. So I guess something more to really prove to the world almost.
Okay. Yeah. And Sochi.
So writing this, I've always known there was this kind of macro and micro level of what her desire and motivation are. The obvious one is, freeing her country from the occupation of the Nazi. That's on I'm going through this. She's not so much as a leader. I think she does see herself as just a soldier. She's a soldier and part of the resistance movement to make that macro. But on a micro level with her family is very wealthy, and it bothers her that they're complacent during this time and they are profiting off this war and kind of just like playing dumb and naive in their little castle. And that bothers her, and kind of that awakening of her family. This is not okay. This is not the time to be complacent. But at the same time, they have to, be safe with how they proceed, and they're kind of in dangerous territory. So those are kind of the two things that are driving motivation and desire for her to do what she's doing.
Great. And Janneke.
So Jakob's motivation in late life is anything that brings peace and joy to his family. And seeing these new, old, risky adventures come up do not bring that to him. And for his son, Albie, ultimately it is love. That's what he comes to. But his initial motivation and desires is to be recognized. He wants to be recognized as doing better in life. Yeah. He wants to receive attention.